Hello and welcome to the That Sports blog video blog. We're going to have a look around the world of sport and we're going to look at primarily at the moment American football and football, which are my areas of expertise. But we're going to add some more sports in as we go. So we're going to start with American football and we're going to start with the Arizona Cardinals, who have now officially signed JJ Watt to his 2-year deal. That went through and happened on Tuesday. So JJ Watt now joins quite a good Cardinals defence, which has a nice linebacker core with Chandler Jones, Jordan Hicks, Davon Kennard, and last year's number 8 pick Isaiah Simmons. They also have Budda Baker at the free safety position. The Cardinals are set to lose a lot of players to free agency's contract expiring, which also includes 2 of their cornerbacks, and one of those cornerbacks is Patrick Peterson. Chris Banjo, their strong safety, is also on the list of players whose contracts are up, and edge rusher Hassan Reddick, who had quite a nice finish to last year. The Cardinals have £11 million worth of cap space left, and they have 2 big free agents. Patrick Peterson, who we've already mentioned, and veteran future Hall of Famer wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald. Now, Larry Fitzgerald is 38 and he may not come back. He's had a couple of knocks here and there and the decision hasn't really been made on his future. Now, if he decides to come back, money may not be a big motivator for him. He may look to stay, take a bit of a cut to help out to try and get the team into the playoffs. And the same with Patrick Peterson. Ben Roethlisberger, the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback, has just taken a pay cut of about £5 million, which has helped the team out with a bit of cap space. So they may look at doing that for Fitzgerald and Peterson if they both decide to stay. Patrick Peterson has spent all of his career at the Cardinals. Larry Fitzgerald is coming into his 18th season. So for a team that went 8-8, having both of those big players back will do them some favours, particularly with the likes of JJ Watt now coming in. So we will have to see how they go with that and how they balance their cap space with potential players being cut. And where they may look to clear up some money if they need to pay big contracts to Patrick Peterson and Larry Fitzgerald, who may end up like reasonable contracts for them would be around the £11 million mark, and that's all they've got left. So they're going to have to look at some things there. Other teams are starting to make cuts as we move towards free agency, which starts on the 17th of March. Kyle Rudolph has been released by the Vikings after 10 years there. Miami have released Kyle Van Noy, which is going to save them about £9.7 million. And the Saints, who have quite a big problem with cap space, have released tight ends Jared Cook and Josh Hill. So the teams will start to make cuts, and as we move towards free agency starting in 12 days, we're going to see a lot more cuts, and there may be sort of like mass amounts of players being cut. Teams need to clear up cap space so that they can bring in some big players in free agency to try and improve the teams and get them to the Super Bowl. NFL cap space is kind of a tricky thing to understand, and I'm going to sit down, I'm going to do a video about it at some point. We'll try and explain how it works and how teams do it, but a lot of them employ somebody who's a capologist, who effectively their job is to manage the salary cap and the contracts. But we're going to move away from the NFL now, and we're going to come closer to home, and we're going to look at football. We're going to start in Scotland, and we're going to start with Rangers, who will win the title this weekend if they beat St Mirren, and Celtic drop points against Dundee United. If they both win, then Rangers will only need a point, and that could happen when they play Celtic at Parkhead on the 21st. The league will then split in April, and I think Rangers would like to have it wrapped up before then, and ideally they'd like to have it wrapped up this weekend if things go their way, but it would be quite a big coup if they could win it at Celtic. So we just have to keep an eye on the fixtures this weekend and see what happens. In other news for Scottish football, we've had an announcement that the Scottish Leagues 1 and 2 are going to return on the 20th of March. Both leagues have over half of their fixtures left to fill. Most of the teams have played somewhere between 8 and 11 games, and it's a 22-game season. So it's raised a couple of questions whether they're going to be able to finish the whole 22-game season in the time they need to do. But if they are, teams are going to be looking at games coming quick and fast. You're going to have lots of 2-game weeks. In League 1, Falkirk are first. They hold a 2-point lead over newly promoted Cove, who came up this season from League 2. While Forfar are 3 points adrift of 9th place Clyde, but Clyde have played 2 games less than them, so Forfar are going to need to find some form, string a good run of games together if they want to stay up or avoid playoffs depending on where they finish. In League 2, Queen's Park hold a league there, and Brechin are bottom with just 4 points. This month we'll also see the restart of the Scottish Cup, which is going to come in the second round. That's where they're up to before the suspension. They were suspended. And then the third round will be early in April, which is where you'll see the likes of Celtic and Rangers come into the competition. In England, we've had the announcement that the Women's FA Cup is going to restart as well. That's set to restart on the 31st of March. So we've got the Premier League, and we've had some big fixtures this weekend. Chelsea took on Liverpool and won and moved into 4th. Everton, not that long before them, moved into 4th, only to be knocked out when Chelsea won after Everton beat West Brom. But Chelsea and Everton will play each other this week. They'll play on Monday at 6 o'clock. So that's a big battle for 4th place, see who gets there. Meanwhile, down the bottom of the table, both West Brom and Fulham lost, while Sheffield United won, which has helped them close the gap. Sheffield United won a 1-0 game against Aston Villa after a very spirited display after being reduced to 10 men when Phil Jagielka was sent off for denying a goal scoring opportunity. There's some questions around that based on whether Bryant would have got back or not, but it goes into a whole debate about VAR I don't want to have right now. So Sheffield United take on Southampton this weekend, and we'll look to try and build on that. Now, whether they change the formation is yet to be seen, but they are missing quite a lot of players through injury, particularly in the defence. Their 3 starting centre-backs from last year, John Egan, Chris Basham and Jack O'Connell, are all missing. Obviously, Phil Jagielka is suspended. They're missing their new signing, Jayden Bogle, who came over from Derby in the summer. So whether they did very well, they've defended incredibly well when they went down to 10 men and were forced into a back 4. Now, whether going to a back 4 is something that Chris Wilder will consider, we don't know. He has spoken this week and said that having different formations is something they do have in their locker, and particularly for professional players. So we may see them change formation. And something like a 4-4-1-1 or 4-4-2, 4-3-1-2 may help them out. With a back 4, you know who your man is, whereas in a sort of back 5 or back 3, you sort of have to pass a little bit. So particularly with younger centre-backs that they're going to have, they've got no experience, because obviously Egan's injured, O'Connell's injured, Basham's injured, Jagielka's suspended, which means it's likely to be Kean Bryant and Ethan Ampadu who start. And they're both relatively young in footballing terms and relatively inexperienced in the Premier League. So that may help them out. And doing something where you either play a 4-4-1 or you have that sort of number 10 position may help them, because it will allow McGoldrick to sort of drop in where he likes to be. He likes to come in and do, and it may be that works in a 4-4-1 and you play the likes of Chris Burke out wide and exploit his pace, or you play him up top or Brewster up top so they can get runs in behind, or you play McGoldrick as a big sort of target, not McGoldrick, McBurney is a big sort of target man. So there's a lot of possibilities they could come with that may help them out. Meanwhile, Liverpool are struggling. They lost to Chelsea 1-0 thanks to a Mason Mount goal. And it took Liverpool 84 minutes to have a shot on target, which was a Wijnaldum header, which it wasn't the best. It wasn't the hardest of shots for Mendy to save. They've now slipped to 5 consecutive home defeats, which they've not done in their entire history. And it's looking more and more unlikely that they're going to finish in the top 4 or even potentially finish in a European place, with obviously Tottenham are coming on a little bit strong, a bit behind, but they're just behind Liverpool on the table. Everton and Chelsea are going well. West Ham have found a nice little bit of form under David Moyes. So there's a lot of teams pushing for those places behind Man City, Man United and Leicester. So Liverpool have had a lot of defensive issues, and a lot of that's due to injury, and that's not avoidable. They've lost Gomez, Matip and Van Dijk for effectively the whole season. They've on their 19th centre-back partnership or something like that. And at one point they had both Fabinho and Jordan Henderson in centre-back. Now both those are midfielders, and that sort of change in front of your keeper is not going to give you a lot of stability. Now they've brought in centre-backs. They've got the youngsters of Nat Phillips and Reece Williams, but they've also brought in Ozan Kabak on loan from Schalke and Ben Davis from Preston. So playing one of those, a pairing of those, obviously Kabak seems to have kind of he's played 5 games in a row now, I think, so he's starting to cement a centre-back's position there, and it's whether who you play him with He played quite well with Phillips against Sheffield United when they kept a clean sheet, but you've also got Davis, who's more left-footed, left-sided, which will allow Kabak to go onto his stronger right side where he may feel more confident. But doing something like that would allow Fabinho to go back into the midfield where he wants to be. He's a very good screening, very good holding midfielder, and when you've got fullbacks that bomb on like Alexander-Arnold and Andy Robertson do, having a holding midfielder who wants to drop back and quite happy to sit in with the centre backs is key. And I don't think other than Fabinho or Henderson, Liverpool really have that. Wijnaldum's a very, very box-to-box player, the same with Curtis Jones, and Curtis Jones is quite inexperienced in Premier League terms. And then you've got Thiago, who he's probably a much more creative player. He's got a very good range of passing. So getting Fabinho back in will allow Thiago to express himself a bit more, and that may help them. Another thing that may help them is possibly freshening up either the tactics or the front three, or doing something that's going to get you chances. Diego Jota looked really good when he came off the bench against Chelsea. He looked lively, trying to make runs in behind. And they have got options to bring him there. Now, one of their options may be to change the formation, go to something like almost like a 4-2-3-1 or sort of a midfield, which will allow Thiago a bit of free reign as sort of a number 10. Or they stay with the tried and trusted formation, but sort of freshen up the front three, bring Jota in, maybe bring Origi in and play him as a bit more of an orthodox number 9, get him in the box, as opposed to playing the sort of false 9 that Firmino plays. So they've got Fulham coming up this weekend, and then they've got a big game against Leipzig to come where they hold a 2-0 lead. But if you give some of the players a rest, give some of the youngsters like Neco Williams a start in the league against Fulham, let them prove themselves, but give your big players a rest as well, because they need to find some form, and they need to possibly find another way into Europe, which may be coming from winning the Champions League. Man United have now drawn 3 in a row, but they will play Manchester City this Sunday at 4:30, which is the big clash of the top two. Hopefully it will be a really good game, but since Man United got thrashed by Tottenham, their games against the what you would call Big Six, which is probably now over Big 8, they've drawn almost all of them. I think actually they probably have drawn all of them. So let's hope that City's will extend their winning runs of 21 games now. They'll extend that to 22, and we'll have a big flowing back and forth game, which should be really good. Also on Sunday we have the Bayern Munich Dortmund game. That's at 5:15. If you want to watch two of the big heavyweights of German football go head to head. If you don't want to watch football, on Sunday there is the NHL ice hockey game. At 5 o'clock you could watch the Buffalo Sabres play the New York Islanders. That's on BT Sports. Failing that, if moving into the week, if you're looking for something different, the NBA All-Star game is on Monday at 1 a.m. That's like the big, it's their big sort of, almost like the NFL Pro Bowl. It's players are selected from all of the teams or different teams, so it's the stars of the game go head to head in two different teams, which could be quite an interesting watch. And on Thursday at 11:30 a.m. the Players Championship Golf Tournament tees off. So if you're a big golf fan or you want to watch a bit of golf, that's there for you as well. So that's it for this week, and I will see you all next week.